to listen to that instead. But they had a clip of me from 1988. It was my second Fringe when I'll tell the story now. I might ask you for later. But we were in the Oxford Review, which was unpopular in 1988, but at least kind of had some presence. It's kind of now. It's still going, I think, the Oxford Review, but it's a very kind of low-key thing, and good luck to those youngsters. But at that time, the established comedians, the alternative comedians, kind of hated the Oxbridge, everything Oxbridge stood for, perhaps correctly, but they took out their spleen on us. We were just some 19-year-old children, basically, who they decided to bully. And Keith Allen, who I don't like because of this, came to review the show for whatever the culture, the Edinburgh Nights was called then, and he was drunk, maybe even on drugs, and that's what I said to him later, and he went, ooh. And he moved. There was a crash mat for the first sketch where I pushed Ben Moore off this high ledge onto this crash mat, and Keith Allen moved the crash mat for the first sketch. He was getting up, he was shouting, and
Ben Moore died.
And he did. She shouted, "Jump now, you fucker!" And I just thought, well, I've got to be professional, so I pushed Ben Moore off anyway. And he survived. He did survive. He was a young and live man there. But the next, and then Keith Allen went out of the theatre after the first sketch, punched the theatre manager as he left. He's very rock and roll, and then went on TV. And the review of the show, which he'd seen one sketch of, which he'd slightly spoilt, I would argue, by shouting all the way through it. It wasn't very good, but that's not the point.
This has only just been on the news.
Yeah, it's got through. He said the Oxford Review, as you'd expect, crap. Harsh. So we said it was a bit unfair because they hadn't seen the show. So the next week they let us go on. Me and one of the other cast went on to have a discussion thing with Keith Allen, Muriel Gray. I think Malcolm Hardy was there, just to basically get humiliated again. So they showed a little clip from which I haven't seen for years of this thing. I look so incredibly young and unfairly on the news. I don't know if this is news, that in 24 years a man goes from looking quite young to looking quite old. But they both went, here's Richard Herring, when he was in his first Fringe, which it wasn't, and then they showed a young picture of me going, Good
argument.
And look at him, here he is now, to my old wrinkly gonk face. As if...
What a slow news day.
So, yeah, it's in the proper news. I think it'll be on tonight. So
it's like 18-year-old, no longer 18 years old.
Yeah.
That was the story.
It's a bleak thing to have to see that, happen immediately. And thank God that just didn't happen overnight, that transition, because it would have been hard to cope with. But anyway, but it was me going, actually, we're the Oxford Review. I remember I got really upset because they were being really horrible to me. And my voice was just getting higher and higher. Well, actually, none of us went to public school, and we pay our own money to do the Oxford Review, so it's not. And so you're being really unfair. So I basically just got humiliated twice by Keith Allen, but I'll get my revenge on him one of these days.
I ran into Keith Allen in the Phoenix bar in London. It's a late opening bar, and obviously he's a functioning alcoholic allegedly. so that's where he was. But he walked in, and I think ordinarily lots of his friends would be hanging out in the Phoenix, because he walked in and went, "Who here wants to suck my cock?" And then realised he knew nobody in the bar, and had to sit down very quietly on his own with half a shandy.
It probably works for him. I've seen him. I saw him outside. What is it? What's not the Belushi? You know the Belushi's chain of pubs, which is like the most
youth hostels.
Horrible pub.
Youth hostel cum bars.
I've been on a gig really late and had some drinks at the thing, and I came in Hammersmith, and the one on Hammersmith Roundabout. I came out, and it was 2:00 in the morning or something like that, and Keith Allen was outside Belushi's, pissed off his face. He was doing a show play in Hammersmith at that time, just talking to no one. And I thought, well, maybe I don't need to be too harsh on him. That is his life. Maybe actually it doesn't matter.
I've got another Keith Allen story.
Okay, good.
That's what the theme of today is. It's
the Keith Allen
podcast.
It's time for us to get our revenge. 24 years on.
Weirdly, the Keith Allen podcast doesn't feature Keith Allen himself. It's just people talking about anecdotal
evidence. I should get him on as a guest. What
do you think? And just push him onto a crash mat.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I was at the Latitude Festival a couple of years ago, and I didn't even know Keith Allen was at the Latitude Festival, but backstage, it was the last night of the festival, and they said, all right, we've got all this rider, so the entire rider is free, anyone could take it away with them, that's fine. And the woman saying it wasn't even saying it in a particularly loud voice, but Keith Allen, who wasn't backstage at that point, suddenly shows up backstage with 2 bags for life, like Sainsbury's saves his bags for life, just empties it into the bags for life and strolls off. I couldn't believe it. It's like he's got some sort of sonar radar. If anyone says, "Oh, the bar's free," he's immediately there with his bags for life.
It's good that he carries bags. It's good that he doesn't, he's not
he
destroying the planet.
They
at the
are
same
bags
time.
for life.
Yeah.
He has them with, not just for Christmas.
They're bags for killing himself with alcohol if he's not careful.
That's true.
He always gets his cock out. That's what Keith Allen does. That's his party piece, getting his cock out in public. Idiot. Is it worthwhile? I don't think so. But you've got to take it where you can get it sometimes, eh? That's if he came in and said, "Do you want to suck my cock? Would you give it a go?" No. Good. It's good to know our audience have some standards of morality. I might give it a go.
You might suck Keith Allen's...
Is there any circumstance you can envisage you would suck Keith Allen's cock? This is much more fun than the Michael Legg one already, isn't it? Didn't get any... Michael Legg just talked all the time. I didn't get a chance to ask him questions like that.
If there was some sort... say... I could definitely cure cancer.
Yeah, exactly.
That would be it.
Yeah, we'd do it.
Yeah, or...
I wouldn't do it.
No. You quite like cancer, don't you? You're a big...
Well, the human race has to be marshalled by nature. I'm not suggesting human beings get in on that and start killing the ones they don't like.
Right.
It's a thought. It's an idea.
Are you like the Westboro Baptist Church? Do you thank God for AIDS as well?
I do. Well, the Westboro... No, it wasn't. Who was... So just watch out. What's your step, Matthew Crosby? I won't thank...
I haven't asked for thanks.
Can I thank you now, so in case I forget later on? But
Absolutely.
But if I do that, what if in the second half of the show you do an atrocity of some kind, and then people will say, "Richard Herring, thank you. He did that. Matthew Crosby came in. He attacked a woman in the audience. He just punched her in the face for no reason." And Richard Herring said, "Thank you for doing that." And we'd both be tarred with the same brush.
He brought Keith Allen up on stage, started filleting him. It's really upsetting. Awful end to the show. Very bad for an audio podcast as well. All you could hear was just a kind of... That's it.
Do you think in this scenario that you've envisaged, Keith Allen would come and say, "If you suck my cock, cancer will be eradicated"? Would you suck the cock before you had any evidence of that? Would you say, "I'll do it"?
His word is his bond.
I'll do it once you prove that cancer has been eradicated. He says, "No, you have to do it first. That's the only way it'll happen." Would you do it then? Would you take the chance?
I'll take a chance. I'll take a chance. In fact... eczema or asthma or any of that, just even a really mild disease. I tell you what,
if you could cure,
I could cure like stinging nettles. That's all it would be. I'd be like, yeah, of course, Keith.
You really want to? You really want to suck Keith Allen's cock?
I thought I did.
And some people have just arrived at that point to hear. That was the first thing they heard. You really want to suck Keith Allen's cock? This is my kind of show. I'm staying. This looks like a good one. So have you seen any shows at the Edinburgh Fringe Festival yet? I have seen nothing.
I saw Alex Horn's show.
Do you have any Edinburgh memories? I've told you my Keith Allen Edinburgh memory. Do you have one from an Edinburgh past?
Well, you were talking
funny stories.
Yeah, you were talking about
poignant. There can be a sad story. It can be how about you cried yourself to sleep one night. I bet that's happened in Edinburgh.
Well, I've got a very sad story, but it ends with I can't really cure cancer. That's just... Oh, Keith. Wipes mouth. No. Like the thing is, I'm in Pappy.
Good. What else have I got for you? Let's see. Now, this is a question I've been asking quite a few of my guests. What would it take for you to fillet Keith Allen? What would you have to get in return if you were guaranteed to get something? How far would it have to? Would it be money? Would it something world peace or something like that? But is there any circumstance in which you would fillet the actor Keith Allen?
Well, on a world peace, I probably would do it for world, but I'd have to have a guarantee.
Yeah, well, that's the problem.
If it didn't then work, if world peace broke,
yeah,
I would want that fellation back as a refund. He would need to fillet me back.
But in a way, you'd be hoping that world peace didn't come about. This could be. I thought you were going to just try and spit Keith Allen's semen back into his cock. That's how the kind of reverse. And you store it in your cheeks, no world peace. Then just up into the meatus, as it should be called, not the Japs eye like you call it, you racist. Up the urethra, back right down the vas deferens into to his testicular sac.
You've thought about this quite a lot, haven't you?
I thought about the penis a great deal, as you can see. I've thought about it, and I label it each night so I can remember which bit's called which. Well, that's good. So world peace for you.
World peace.
I'm looking forward to asking Francesca Martinez that question. I'm sure we'll have her on. Very good. And I'm asking everyone this question, all my guests. What would it take for you to fillet Keith Allen? What would the actor Keith Allen? What would you need in order to do that? Do you think? How much would you do
A
it?
place.
Would you do it for £50?
No, I wouldn't do it for £50.
£1 million?
Sure.
So, somewhere in between those
Yeah.
two figures, there is the figure.
900,000.
£900,000. Yeah, that's interesting. Well,
Who wouldn't fillet Keith Allen?
who wouldn't? That's a good question.
Yeah.
Anyone here who wouldn't fillet
Yeah,
Keith
but
Allen?
you set it all
Everyone.
up. You've got a toothbrush next to you. He has an AIDS test. Whatever you need.
He has an AIDS test, and it turns out he has AIDS.
Yeah.
That's not saying he does.
Yeah.
I'm just that's in my fantasy
Just
world.
implying. It's the
I
crucial
hope-
saying implying
I hope
distinction.
he does have AIDS, though. I do. I think I can say that. I hope he does. That's what I don't like him.
Why?
Because he moved our crash mats when we were little. When we were doing for one of our first student shows, he kind of came and sabotaged it and shouted at us and punched the theatre manager. All the people at home know about this story.
For
You should have listened to the previous
I'm
podcast
sorry.
before you turned up here
I beg your pardon.
with your glistening helmet. Going on. I'm asking all of my guests this, and you are the first female. So this may seem an inappropriate question.
Oh, good. Right.
What would it take for you to fillet the actor Keith Allen?
A shot of his daughter.
Really? Yeah. Good. That's the best answer so far. Who has 3 nipples?
Like Scaramanga.
Yeah. I believe so. I think I'm right about that.
Have you ever seen someone's third nipple?
That should. I'm asking all of my guests this question, Glenn, and it may make no sense to you. I don't know how much you know about English culture. What would it take for you to fillet the actor Keith Allen? What would you need? What would you need in return? You've done it once, you never go back.
Yeah. Where do you think the spot came from?
It's good. That's the second best answer to that question. Susan Calman was the best. So I ask every guest this question since Matthew Crosby was on. What would it take for you to fillet the actor Keith Allen? What would you need in return for that?
Keith Allen?
Yeah. You have to fillet him to completion. What would you need in return for that to happen?
Well, I did it for 30 quid. And I felt shortchanged. So I'm going to say more than £30
More than
next
30.
time.
That's good.
Yeah.
Good to know.
Not
That's
falling for that again.
Good to know.
Yeah.
And I'm asking all of my guests this question, so I don't think it's weighted in any way towards you. What would it take for you to fillet the actor Keith Allen? What would you need in return? What would you want in return for doing that?
Fucking hell.
I'm asking everyone. I'll be asking tomorrow. I'll be asking the sweet comedian Francesca Martinez that question. I'm not looking forward to that. That would seem inappropriate.
It wouldn't take a lot, really.
No,
a couple of drinks, just to say I'd filleted Keith Allen.
Yeah, because you're impressed with celebrities.
I'm impressed with celebrity, and I've never actually filleted a famous person.
Right.
I've filleted a guy who claimed to be Brett Anderson from Suede's hairdresser. That is the most famous person I've filleted.
Had he filleted Brett Anderson, because then you'd at least be one step, one degree of separation,
And,
one degree of Paul
about
Sinha.
10 or 12 years ago,
Yeah.
I was filleting someone when it was interrupted by him receiving a phone call from Victor Lewis Smith. so that was a slightly odd experience. Those are my 2 fillet claims to fame. It'd be nice to do the real deal. No, it wouldn't take me no more than just 2 drinks to wash the taste out.
That's good to know. And moving swiftly on.